it wouldn't be a great week at The Point without a story from Florida, because you know all the crazy shit happens in the Sunshine State. So Florida apparently includes one father who thought that it would be an awesome idea to spank his daughter in front of police authorities. So apparently his daughter got into a tiff with a sibling. He was really upset about it. He literally called the cops and said, hey, I'm about to spank my daughter. Can you please show up and watch me? Basically supervise me as I do so. And the cops did it, all right? The cops showed up and he proceeded to spank his 12-year-old daughter. He used a paddle apparently. And the sheriff did speak to the press about this, and apparently he didn't do anything wrong. It's within statute for them to discipline their children and spank them. You're entitled to paddle your children, whether you use your hands, you use a belt, you use a paddle, within reason, as long as you're paddling the buttocks. Okay. Now, Florida's civil code also says that what happened was completely legal. Corporal discipline of a child by a parent or legal custodian for disciplinary purposes does not in itself constitute abuse when it does not result in harm to the child. Now, of course, this is a state issue. It varies from one state to another, but in Florida, what happened was totally okay. What do you guys think about this? Erica, make your point.
So I was spanked as a child, not frequently, because I was pretty goody two-shoes, but I was. And so this story resonates with me so much because all I'm trying to figure out is what was going through the parent's mind to call the cops? Like, was the child threatening the parent? Like, if you touch me, I'm calling 911. Like, what in the world made him think to do that? I mean, again, there's the question of, is spanking right or wrong? I no longer agree with it. I did as a kid. I was like, all right, it's just what I get. But it's really just very bizarre to call the police and have them watch you spank your kid. There's just something so weird about that.
Yeah, it definitely is weird. Maybe he knew that he might get out of control, so having a cop there would like keep him in check.
Then you shouldn't be spanking your kid.
You shouldn't. No, I mean, I agree with you on that. What about you, Hank? Make your point.
I too was spanked as a child because of cultural, beliefs, and also sometimes I was rowdy.
Yeah.
Sometimes I deserved it. But Erica, you posed a really great question. I like, is this dad a lawyer? Is what I'm thinking, because if this were some redneck podunk kind of a guy, he would have just wailed and gone all out. But he did want to protect his ass. But if he were really smart and this girl was really misbehaving, the cops would have come, supervised that spanking, and then he would have beat the shit out of her afterwards to cover his ass.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
I don't think that's what happened.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking this man covered his ass. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Whatever happened after the cops left, we don't know about. And that girl was put in her place. She won't misbehave for a long time.
Way to bring it down.
Yeah, really.
Damn.
No, but that's
a fucking buzzkill.
Well, that's definitely a perspective I hadn't thought about before. I didn't think about what the father could have done after the cops left.
Yeah.
I was also spanked. There's no question about that. But it's funny because aside from being spanked, my parents would always threaten me by saying that they would call the cops. Anahit polissympathisangang. Like, and that alone would really scare me. I'd be like, oh my God. So I would behave based on that alone. Obviously, when I was a kid, when I got a little older, I was like, you ain't calling the cops.
Oh God.
And one time I told my mom as a kid, if you're gonna spank me, then I'm gonna call the cops and they're gonna take me away. And she's like, good. Then you'll go ahead and live with some foster parents, some strangers that you don't even know. And I was like, all right, fine, go ahead and spank me. Right? So anyway, all right, so here's the question for the story. What's the weirdest thing your parents would do that would embarrass you? Hank.
Well, from the time I was like 6 to 16, it was pretty much just show up anywhere that I was at. That would be enough to do it. But my parents, being raised Asian, they were fanatics about my education. So like literally like every parent-teacher conference, every PTA situation, and my dad was raised in the army, or he did military time. That's what they did for guys in his generation in Taiwan. So he always comes in with this very authoritative accent, and it's for some of the most perceived to be asinine things. My teacher just thought he was a control freak. He'd be like, okay, so his textbook, okay, so what textbook we going to buy? Making my mom write down. And they would order text and be like, okay, what is grade section? And how can I help you help him? How can I? And it was just, he was very outspoken about my education, and all of my teachers were just like, are you okay? I think I got some people to inflate my grades a little bit more just because they knew that plus
Yeah.
would go down a little easier than a B minus, just because they were like, your dad's
Oh my
fucking
God.
crazy.
Oh my God.
I don't need him coming in during that 1 month a semester to, take inventory on my entire curriculum
Oh my
because
gosh.
you're not passing. So,
Jeez.
yeah.
I had similar parents. I remember showing
Yeah.
up with like a 98 on a spelling test.
Oh my God.
And they'd be like, oh, that's nice. What about 100%? How come that didn't
Yeah.
happen? It was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
worst.
Yeah.
Okay, Eric, what about you? Erica, what about you?
My father treated me like a princess, like a prized jewel when I was a kid. So they were very protective of me. They wouldn't let me ride with other people ever in anyone else's car, go anywhere else, all the way up until high school. And then in high school, I was in a school that was pretty far from home, and I had to take the bus. I don't know what about the bus triggered my father, but he thought that something bad would happen to, and it was a school bus, a private school bus.
Oh my gosh.
But he was really worried about it, especially boys. He thought like boys would attack me or sexually harass me on the bus. So every day he would drop me off at the school bus and then proceed to pull his car up next to the bus and drive slowly by every single window and look and stare and then speed off. And so all my friends thought he was absolutely crazy. And my dad was like 6'4", big guy, tinted windows, sunglasses. Like, it was just bizarre. I mean, nobody ever messed with me, though. So.
Dad loves you. That's a good point.
Yes,
That's
a lot
good
of
point.
love, a lot of love.
All right, I have a story that's actually probably gonna blow everyone else's out of the water just because of its
okay.
absurdity. Okay, so this was it was in 4th grade, and I had left school, and of course, class was over. I'm waiting on the corner for my mom to pick me up. And there was one classmate of mine who was walking with a bunch of friends, and they were like the rambunctious students in class. And as they walked by, one of them, Mike, slapped my butt. Like really, really hard.
no.
And as he was doing that, my mom was turning the corner to pick me up. And so she saw it. And she was livid. Now, I don't know why she had this, but I think it was like to intimidate me and my brother, so we behaved. But she always had a rolling pin on her. She had one in the car with her. And so she literally stopped. I'm not kidding you. I mean, she would be in jail right now if this happened today, but this happened a long time ago. She stopped the car in the middle of the street, runs out with the rolling pin, and starts chasing the guys for what they did. I was mortified. It was so embarrassing. The next day, everyone was talking about it. I think my mom actually successfully whacked one of them, but no one got hurt. And the only thing that got hurt was like my self-esteem and my pride. Just because, all the kids were making fun of me the next day. But now I think about it in retrospect, and I'm like, Mom, you're
love.
down for your daughter.
That was awesome.
Yeah. You're
down for your
That was
daughter.
awesome.
Thank God
Yeah.
there was no
Yeah.
social media back
And nobody
then.
messed.
Seriously.
Nobody messed with you, right? Afterwards.
No, they did.
Oh.
They definitely did.
Oh.
But anyway, that was probably the most embarrassing thing I can remember. But do you guys have similar experiences? What's the most embarrassing thing your parents did to you? And also, what do you make of this story out of Florida? Do you think that this man called the cops to kind of protect his own ass? Or did he do it just to make sure that he didn't get out of hand as he's spanking his daughter? Share your comments and your questions, your thoughts, whatever you have in the section below, and we'll see you guys soon.